Life has been really messed up these days, so I decided to try to do a project that was super simple and easy, a conversion that I knew I could do in just a couple of days. And it turns out I screwed up a lot on this project and a lot of things went wrong, so it's more of a comedy of errors and a virtual who's who of what not to do. So enjoy the many perils of this video. I just bought a Squier Bronco. It's got crazy high action and a warped neck. To which someone helpfully said, that's not a warped mesk, that's a bent neck. So let's look up the definition of warped, shall we? Interesting. 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 Came with an amplifier, and I forgot to tuck the cord from the amplifier into the car before I started driving away, and it ripped off and it pulled away the fender guard from my car. Or should I say Squier guard. So, total cost $140 Canadian plus. Before we do anything else, let's see if we can adjust the truss rod. Let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. The first three notes just happen to be do, re, mi. That is bad. Oopsies. At this point, I've lost track of how many turns I've done on the truss rod, but it's getting slightly better. And there's no back bow near the nut, which is sometimes what happens when you tighten these up. It is getting significantly harder to turn. But when I started, there was no resistance, so it meant the truss rod had never been adjusted before. Not surprising on a beginner instrument that's not that old. I did manage to poke myself on one of these strings, pulling the hex key back out. Better still. Okay, I did a lot of turns, so I'm just gonna let it sit for a while and then come back and see if it needs more. It was pretty much unplayable when I bought it, but it was from a couple of random boomers, and I just plugged it in and made sure it functioned at all, and I was like, I'm a luthier, it doesn't matter if it's broken. Okay, well, it plays significantly better now than it was, but we still got quite a bit of relief. As I feared, and you keep cranking on the truss rod, you risk pulling back the nut end of the neck, and so now our first fret is lower than our second fret. Look how flexible this neck is. Bass check 1, 2. All right, it actually sounds really good. Too bad I have to do this. Time to get stupid. They clearly didn't realize there's a hole in the middle of the shaft for shoving your string into. In the industry, that's known as docking. Now, I've heard, like in the original... When I say original, of course, I'm mistaking it for the vintage Music Master bass. That this is a 6-slug pickup, also from a Squier. It sounded great on bass. Who knows what it'll sound like on guitar, but let's pull off the guard and have a look. Whatever's in there has a very weak magnetic field. Let's see about pole pieces. Yep, it looks like it's 6. Moment of, what? Okay, here we go. Yes, sir. Couple ceramic magnets, couple of mini pots. Pretty typical import stuff. Not typical is the metal button that metal knob that just fell off. That's hefty bit of material, really. I'm gonna break my phone with this shit. Now, 90% of that I'm actually going to route back out again because I'm going with a slotted tuner. This is the part of the video where I spend an hour looking for the tuners that I just took downstairs to lubricate. This segment brought to you by Thank God He Has to Clean, in association with ADHD Inc. After I looked every damn where, ta-da! You may have noticed a ton of pickups everywhere, trying to figure out what the H I'm gonna put in this thing. Okay, so headstock is not thick enough for a side mount, so we have to thicken it. Quick, what's 23 times 5? 115. Double check that there's 115 spacing. No, it's 116 total spacing on this, so it's not exactly 23 millimeters. 116 divided by 5 is 23.2. Let's convert that to US BS, and it's 0.913 inches, which comes out to a very handy fraction of 913 thousandths. I guess we'll just go with 23 and a bit. Now I realize on the headstock I only actually need it 2 millimeters thicker on each side near the edge, so I think I'll do a full on the back, and on the front I'll do some kind of pretty design situation. All right, I'm not sure anymore because that's pretty hideous. I hate this sort of like Framus shape. Circuit breaker went.
Bronco. Hashtag new Headstock design just dropped.
Chippy. Don't like that.
This morning the sun and hills the dry my talk shadows away. Love wants to setting wheels and it is closed. It is someone's last day. It is someone's last day. Someone's gliding away. The right when the sunset is closed. It is someone's last day. Someone is nearing the dark river's brain. Billows that fury display.
Ooh, that's too tight.
Soon will be said with this life's dearest lane. It is someone's last day. It is someone's last day. Someone's gliding away. The bright golden sunset is cold. It is someone's last day. Waste not the moment so precious and bright. But nothing that lies can replay. Someone will never be home his life. It is someone's last day. It is someone's last day. Someone's gliding away. The bright golden sunset is cold. It is someone's last day.
Now, unsurprisingly, there will be some clearance issues here, so we're going to add a little bevel to the inside edge of here. Well, it's time to see if this 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch round, rusty old bit will do the trick. Well, that sucked. Great news, I made it even worse. So the way I screwed that up is I tried to balance my router above this so that it could clear the nut and the taper. And yeah, it was a disaster. The lesson, of course, clamp down your workpiece, set up your jig, take your time. Don't do this. Power tools are an amazing way to get things done quickly. They're also an amazing way to put things up quickly. So I'm gonna change tasks for a little while and come back to that headstock. The pickup debate has been running rampant. I was considering doing one of these Valco string through bridges, but that doesn't leave much room, especially for baritone strings. Still in contention. We'll consider that. Obviously, I'm thinking about a Jaguar humbucker here. A Rickenbacker horseshoe would be pretty badass. A pair of D'Armond mustache pickups could be pretty cool. So I've got this Jimmy Reed thin twin pickup that actually came out of a mandolin, but I think they're all the same regardless of the application. I will have to modify the routing for the adjustment screw, but I think the nice chrome cap will be a nice simple sort of Danelectro-esque situation. This is a quick mock-up. Is it too little? Am I doing too little? Another option, this black face Filtertron with the gold and the chrome. Not sure. Also, my rehydrated Famo wood did not work, it chipped off. I tried to reinforce it with super glue, that didn't work. So now I'm going to mix some dust and wood glue. I really should have just cut it out and spliced in some new wood, but we're getting kind of close. Though I love the idea of that thin twin, I think that these Jaguar pickups will sound better. So I'm gonna make a custom bobbin. Just deciding whether it would be easier to make it by hand or with the laser. Well, considering I'm only making one, I think cutting out a custom rectangle and drilling 12 holes will probably be easier than programming it. What if you only had one chance, one opportunity, and you blew it? Now the lesson here is, even if you mark your holes with an awl, still drill a pilot hole if you're going to be drilling a bigger hole, because what happened here is the awl hole that didn't quite register the bit slid, and it screwed up the project. Should have drilled a small, like 1/8 inch pilot hole to guide the larger bit. Back to it. Well, maybe it was too much maple anyway. Who cares that I green matched it? I think that's too much maple. I decided to triple down on the stupidity, and now I'm going to make a V groove and then See how much I pick up the headstock then. But don't worry, I've got a bunch of loosely stacked wood. So that should probably be a good jig. God, I'm scared. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you and say it's better, but it is not a lot worse. Shit.
Wonders that seem to me, Jesus so gracious should be, mercy revealing, comfort and healing, blessing a sinner like me. Part of I could never know, Jesus such peace could bestow. Tell my dear Savior, show me His favor, cleanse my heart whiter than snow. Once I was full of all sin, now through the blood I am clean, willing to save me, pardon He gave me, and I am happy with Him. Long I resisted His grace, in my heart gave Him no place, but Jesus saw me till He had brought me, penitent taking His face.
This is after 2 coats. I'm gonna hit it with some 320 and then 400 and then keep going. Just when you thought I couldn't f up anymore, the tuners weren't going in smoothly, so I tried to drill out this hole. The next thing I can f up is routing this out for the extra mounting hole for the pickup. Well, let's find out. You'd almost say I knew what I was doing. look right here and listen to the sound of the nozzle from this spray can falling off my roof. Couldn't find it. Let's see if the can still works without it. Ooh, yep. Whoops. Okay, that's looking pretty fresh. That might be it. All right, all that leaves for the body is to make a bridge. Because it's already drilled for 6 strings. Bing, bing. Of course, I can't make a bridge until the neck is done. The water damage to the headstock created this very original texture. Will we just say F it and keep it? Maybe. So the black paint obviously bled into the raw maple on the back and the stuff I had sanded here. This video is turning into a masterclass of what not to do. The list keeps going on and on. So now I'm trying to strip back the maple, get the paint off, and then I'm gonna put some shellac on this figured maple back strap. And then, yeah. This looks like trash. I don't know if I'm gonna fix it or just leave it shitty. Well, the verdict is in. We're not winning any beauty contests with this thing, but we're just gonna go with what we got. There's the toothpick I inlaid, hidden perfectly. It goes nicely with these paint stains. I quit. Screw aesthetics. Let's see if we can make this thing play before we waste any more time completely f***ing it up. So far, it's cost me $140. Broke my car. And I took a much more complicated route than I needed to. I could have just surface mounted tuners the normal way, and I wouldn't be in any of this trouble, but I did. And the consequence is we all get to learn how stupid I am. Now, originally I wanted to see if I could make a 30-inch standard tuning guitar. And so we're gonna do one test with a 8 gauge and see A, if it reaches the final precipice of the headstock, and B, if it can come up to high E under tension. It looks like it's gonna reach. So, let's find out. Okay, I think it can. All right, I'm satisfied actually just knowing that it can be a guitar, but because I don't have any baritones, I'm gonna make this a baritone. I don't have a file for 68, so I just winged it with this guy. And I got a 16 file over here, and now I'm gonna lay out the string spacing. It's actually pretty narrow. These red dots are a spacing I use a lot, so basically just a standard guitar. Okay, I have to finish setting it up, but that's the first taste. I just happen to have this Japanese bridge that's 9.5-inch radius, which is the same as this bass. And so I just need to set it up with some spacers. Right now it's just sitting on 2 little guys on the screws. It looks like we might be able to use those screw holes to align it. Now I'm starting out by bringing everything down to 22 thousandths or something, whatever it is. I don't know, imperial something or other. And for each gauge of string, I'm using a file that is 1 to 2 gauges larger. So I'm using a 16 here for the 14, and so on. I'm having a hard time figuring out what to demo on this baritone. I've never had one before. I've never played around with one before. So I'm gonna plug in my wah pedal, see if that helps.